Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today?
Great.
Awesome. Happy Friday. This week went by fast for me. Did anyone else feel like it went fast?
Yeah.
No?
Very. Very.
Gratitudes, victories for the week, for the year.
I'm grateful for how hot it is in here, so I can appreciate the coolness of my office.
It does seem warm.
I have no idea how to control that, but it is warm in here. Feels just fine. Hey, his office is right next to yours. Maybe you should just switch.
He's just being high maintenance.
Anybody else? Thank you for sharing that, Jay. It's a good gratitude. John.
I'm grateful for the generosity of all the people here. We're able to raise money for 4 families, and maybe I should have shot my goal a little higher to help 5. But
So you were able to help. Was that for the Christmas time, or was that Thanksgiving one?
So we helped the breed during Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the funds, and we're going to buy and deliver on Saturday for 4 more families, maybe 5.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Good job on that. That's fantastic. Thanks, John.
Oh, thanks to all of you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for whoever helped with that. It's a good time of year to help. So a lot of families need it. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm grateful for this company and just the atmosphere. It's unbelievable. You know, just the personal growth that I've had in just this 3 short weeks that I've been here is amazing. And it has a lot to do with the culture. And, you know, like John said, just, you know, the amazing people here. And it's about bettering yourself as a person and also, you know, professionally, business, whatever it is, it's been just indescribable for me.
Yeah, no, that's
So,
great.
great.
Well, and it also says a lot about you being open and willing to learn too. Yeah, because you can be in a great environment and not learn anything. So that's thanks for plugging in while you've been here. Yeah, thank you for doing that. Yeah.
I'm grateful to have my visitors here from out of town. They're from the Phoenix market. Cindy works in, is it Payson? Prescott, Arizona.
Prescott.
And she's an agent down there, and my brother-in-law here is studying to be an agent, so they came to check us out.
All right. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
That's great.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Anybody else? So just so you guys are aware, next week we will not be open on Tuesday, and on Monday we're open till noon. But to my knowledge, we're not having morning ascent on Monday or Tuesday, and then on Wednesday we'll be back to.
That's incorrect. We are actually having
We are having morning ascent on Monday.
one. Boy!
Okay.
I love it.
Are you? Yeah. So Monday we'll have morning ascent, and Wednesday we'll have morning ascent, and Tuesday we will not have morning ascent. And that, you can have your own morning ascent.
At George's house.
At where? At George's. George's gonna hold morning ascent, his house. You can come in your jammies.
Exactly.
And other than that, I don't think there's anything else today. Make sure if you're considering Mike Ferry's production retreat, the prices go up at the end of the month. So get involved with that. In fact, I was talking with April Oaks yesterday, and the vacation certificates we get from Century 21. So today today's the last day for their discount, so they're $230. So that's a vacation. You get a hotel for 7 days for $230, and they're all over the world. But there is like 5 of them in Vegas for that specific week. So for $230, you could have. I mean, it sleeps 4 to 5. You could put that in there and really stay the whole entire week. And then she was mentioning that on the 17th, 18th, and 19th is prospecting school down at Mike Ferry's thing. So you could really go down there and hit production retreat Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, then prospecting school Thursday, Friday, and have just a really powerful way to start your year off. So just a thought for you. Okay.
So one more casual
Yep.
observation.
Uh-huh.
I've known George for over probably 13 years.
Uh-huh.
And this is the first time I've ever seen him inside work without a tie on. Seriously.
Really?
He wanted to
I've
match.
never seen him here without a tie on.
Here's my deal.
In fact, as I was getting dressed this morning, I knew he was coming and I thought, he's still going to be in a suit.
I am. I'm
Couldn't find a tie this morning, George?
no.
Lower
I
your
give
head
Rob a
back
hard
here.
time for the two. I usually try to not wear a tie. Well, I don't wear one in California ever. And I try to not wear one about once or twice a week. Like Tuesday, I didn't wear a tie.
It's casual Friday.
Then it's Casual Friday. Although I get very nervous about that because my Soul Realty executives, they went to Casual Friday and 18 months later they were bankrupt.
It's
So I
called
was like,
breaking your pattern, and he's about ready to do it again.
That's right. That's right. The question is, does the suit make the man or the man make the suit? But I still was giving Rob a hard time at the funeral yesterday. I said, seriously, you went to a funeral with no tie. I mean, and because I have a 20, well, actually it's way too long, but it's 20-something years of association with Rob. Longer than I would like it to be, but Jeff, you know, I've known him since he made fun of me in concert choir at Skyline High School.
You guys, way back.
Way back.
It's actually 30 years.
I do like the fact that he sent it to another buddy of me and took a picture of me and said, hypocrite. And that's the text I got from him this morning. So, and then the good news is he's giving me a hard time, and the lady who will give me the other hard time it just showed up behind him. So would you like to say anything?
For what?
You want to take a photograph?
The lack of a tie?
See, Jeff, I told you.
is about hypocrisy.
As the morning message was about lifting each other up.
That's right. That's right.
Perfect.
That's right. All right. So speaking of that, we're just going to start with a solid foundation because I got visitors, and then I know there's a.
Where is it?
Pardon?
Where is it?
Yeah, it's home. I wasn't planning on wearing one.
Friday.
The question is, does
Casual
Yes.
Friday.
All right.
Dress down.
I know.
I got a new jacket.
That's right. It's not new. It's just that I only wear it once in a while. All right, Andrew. Foundation. You ready? Not that you haven't heard this before, but I just want to remind everybody that if you're going to succeed in this business, and there's a handful of people who I know this is new to, and that is I just want to remind you that living a life of purpose, living a life of, I'm just going to say high-level desire. I'm going to put up here why. I'm going to put up here your musts, right? What are critical to you. So from that standpoint, I just would challenge you that you have got to figure out absolutely what's driving the emotion and the heart of your business. And then you could come over here and say, okay, this is where your mind will work, and that is the goals, your plan, and your schedule. Right? So, look, those are fundamental, and you guys are going to move into 2019 here very shortly, and I just would challenge you that, man, to not know your heart and your mind, like where you're going, like the mechanics of where you're going, the plan that you're laying out to get there, the things you're going to do with your time, and then whatever word, that resonates for you, purpose, desire, why, must, realize that this is so much about what you mentally will think about. This is so much about what you will feel and the heart behind everything that you do. So with that, it's not like this is anything like new, but when I was 22 years old and I sat in a conference room by myself and asked the question, what do top producers do? What I realized is that they operated from a high level of emotion and a high level of thought, if that makes sense. Okay? So with that, let's just move to here, and I'm going to break off on one of these, but just a reminder of like what every great agent has, and that is that their mindset, their skill sets, their personal discipline, and this is the reason why that when I write these things up here and I think about it, and that is as I've always said, that there is nothing that you can't learn and nothing that you can't do in this business. And the thing that I look at there is that I remember as I would look at this over and over again, that I knew that I could figure out any system, I could create any strategy, I could create the disciplines necessary, the skill sets necessary, and the mindset, as long as I knew where I was going and the reasons I knew I was getting there. And this is the reason why for years, doesn't matter where I show up, if I'm with an agent, I will talk about this in some fashion, some way. If I'm talking to a group of 1,000 people, or if I'm talking to another company, when I say another company, completely other industry, my whole point will be is to focus in on this foundation. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. I don't care if it was even your past profession. This is the key to success. This is the foundation that each one of us has to build. And so I go back to, again, nothing you can't learn, nothing you can't do, because there's nothing about this that you can't do. The question is how far is your gap from, let's just say, here to here regarding your mindset? Or is your mindset from here to here? But it's the statement that I always make to my son, which is, he could probably put this on my gravestone, which is, figure it out. And I might say it with a little bit more passion than that to him. But I basically, when I'm talking about sports, when I'm talking about athletics, when I'm talking about school, is figure it out. Stop looking for everyone else to give you an answer in your life. Most of what you already need is inside of you. The problem is this is always the issue with humanity, is they ask, well, frankly, they usually ask no questions. The question is are you asking questions of yourself? The question of why this even exists for me and is the foundation of all training in Everest is because I asked a question in my early 20s, what do top producers do? So the question is are you asking yourself questions? And the challenge is, if you heard, obviously, I know a bunch of you heard the morning meeting, or I'm sorry, daily message, is that as a general statement, why is almost always whining. Whining. Why is this the case?
Why is it so hot in here?
I know, I'd like to know that. Please. My pre-workout is kicking right back into gear. Okay? But I just want to point out, if you didn't listen to the daily message, is that you should be asking how and what. What must I do? Who must I become? You know, you can even put who down there, right? How do I do more business? How do I become more effective? How do I learn more scripts and dialogues? How do I communicate at a better level? The challenge is that we are professional whiners. And we are great salespeople to sell people, especially our own selves, on why we should excuse ourselves. And I go back to, which is always a hot button for me, is that we will rationalize or we will, this is your religious lesson for today, you will repent. Meaning, you'll either do what you know you're supposed to do, or you'll rationalize it all the way. And it's a hot button for me, but you'll either prospect, and meaning you'll get online, you'll do what you're supposed to do, or you'll rationalize why you don't need to. Right, Chris? Fair?
Very fair.
Okay?
I wish there's a couple people here that this is like the first week of business.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick this stuff up until I've been in business for a while. I wish this would have been the first thing that I heard. I think sometimes that we forget that this is really the foundation. This is really where you should start. Your first week in business, first year in business, this is where it should be. Because with rationalize or say why, it's only going to take you 3 months before you start saying, well, I could be doing as many sales as but I'm not this. I could be doing that many
I
sales.
say that later when you come to the
prospect,
morning
but
meeting.
I could knock doors, but I'm too ugly. I could be on time, but I like to sleep,
Yeah, always. So again, I just echo to either of us that, look, this is just how we're going to live our life. Hence the reason why, and do I believe there's a balance to it, but you guys have heard me say this for years, which is simply, I do what I'm supposed to do despite what? How I feel. I'm not suggesting that you should never have moments in your life where you're not enjoying, if you would just simply say, pursuing your life in regards to how you feel. But I can tell you that I rarely wake up going, man, I feel so excited about prospecting today. And so sometimes we will allow everything else to get in the way of what we know we're supposed to do. And so I would just really echo to you that if you want to be extraordinary in this business, it's when you start doing what you're supposed to do versus rationalize it away. And we all do it. We all do it. We say things like, I'm so busy, I just can't focus on my health right now. Hello, that's been my excuse for 25 of my years on this earth, which is crazy. It isn't today, but I realized that was my rationalization. I don't have time. or I can't focus there. I mean, it's fascinating. Or there'll be a day where finally we just simply say, I'm going to figure it out, right? We're going to figure it out. We're going to do what we're supposed to do despite how we feel. Rob?
On Tuesday when we had Wednesday when we had the movie, so I was there with my daughter and happened to, we were sitting with another agent, and the agent who we were talking with, we've been trying to work towards having them do certain things, and from prospecting side of things, and they haven't been getting it done. And so here I am with my daughter, talking to her, because every time you talk about these things, hey, what do you want to do? We get all upset, right? So I happened to mention with my daughter that was right there, just saying, look, I don't just harp on you on what do you want to do. Here, I'm actually talking to this agent. Let me ask him. This agent hasn't been doing what they're supposed to be doing. Let me see if they're upset about that, why I'm asking. And bottom line is the agent was like, no, I'm not upset that you're asking me these questions, because you're asking because it's for my own good. You're getting me in line trying to help me see what my why is, see what my purpose is, so that I'll do these things. Whereas that's kind of the same thing I go with my daughter, is I'm asking you these questions because I care about you, I love you. And whereas they're looking at it as, stop doing this because you're nagging me, you're whatever you're doing, but you're doing it out of love. And so it's interesting where she was able to get a different perspective rather than from Dad, but from somebody else. It's like, oh, okay, maybe there is a greater reason here.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing why we're up here. It's because we care about you, giving this type of information, guidance to help us self-discover.
Maybe Dad isn't out to get me, right?
Yeah. So, like, from a kid standpoint, or anyone I meet, and that is the ability to do two things. One, to be able to think. Two, be able to decide. And one of my pet peeves is people who cannot make decisions. And I'm fascinated by that. And if I was to put a third into it, it would be then to execute upon what you've thought about, what you have then decided about, and what you have executed on. And so I am hyper insensitive into that whole arena. Like, I look at, like, even like where you could almost say I force my children to set goals, right? My whole statement always is you'll always have a goal. You can always change your goal, but you can't change it for 90 days. So, I mean, I look at Bella's goals. I sat down with her last week and we were just driving along and I said, here's my phone. Here, write down 3 specific goals. And she wrote down to make right side and left side layups and 3-pointers, and make 3 3-pointers in a row, because she hit a game-winning 3-pointer shot. Number 2, have a behind the back and through the legs. I didn't realize this. Left side 3 to make. She's 11 to make a behind the back and through the legs, and left side 3, and to make 8 out of 10 free throws. And so we have a bet for $100 that when she makes, not a bet, I guess, competition, what do you want to call it, reward, when she makes 8 out of 10 free throws, she gets $100. I mean, so I just hope that when you start looking at, we have a lot of stewardship and responsibilities that are well outside of this business of real estate, and to Rob's point, I'm just curious, like, are you leading a life of decision, leading a life of thought? Earl Nightingale said, right, the problem with men today, of course women, right, is what? They simply don't think. It's fascinating. All the noise, all the phones, all the screens that we look at, right? We sleep in a box, we then walk outside of the box, we then go drive in the box, right? I mean, it's crazy. Everything about our lives is very boxy and very consuming to make it to where we rarely get out of our comfort zone and we rarely think. And it's fascinating, and you can see it in people. You see it with their health, their relationships, and their business. These are all signs of poor thinking, poor decision making, and poor execution. And we all do it. It just depends on, again, whether we're going to take a stand and get a complete resolve, ask better questions of how, what, who, and then all of a sudden we start moving to this standpoint of these skill sets, this foundation. And I've been trying to do this, so I'm going to put this up here, but I just want to remind you, I may miss one or two, but I just want to point out that as we talk about what we can learn and we can do in this business, from you getting into the business, my point to any of you is that it should be inexcusable that you're earning less than $250,000 a year in this business. You have to make conscious decisions that you refuse to practice, you refuse to prospect. And I sat down with an agent yesterday and I'm all, this isn't rocket science. Went through the whole numbers. And then he went, oh my gosh, that means that's what I'd have to do. And I went down to the whole thing and I just said, you realize that all you have to do is set 2+ appointments a day. And I don't care whether that takes you 1 hour or 6 hours, set 2. Do you know what that does if you do that for 42 weeks a year? Take 2.5 months off. You know how much money you earn? $600,000. And then he asked this question, well, what happens when I have a lot of business? Then you still make the focus of setting 2 appointments a day. And my point is that it's inexcusable. Because I know what you're doing with, and this is the question you have to always ask yourself. What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with the challenges that you're facing? And do you know where you're going? So, or what do you want? And as long as you know those 3 questions, the issue in almost every one of your lives right now is what are you doing with your time? If you're not earning $500,000, $250,000, $1 million a year, it's easy for me to look at you and sit in my office with you and go, tell me what you're doing with your time. And you'll give me all your pathetic, let me just say, pathetic reasons why. And I will then, depending on the mood I'm in, Jeff, will then either receive it well or really call you on the carpet on it. And I know many of you have had, and then this is where people look at me and they're, and you guys are there and I'm here, and they go, man, he really is an ass. No, I'm not an ass. What I am is I'm honest. And what I hate is that you discount and rationalize and give excuse for why you don't do your job. And it drives me crazy as to why it is that you somehow believe that you should rationalize away you're not there. Wherever it is you're there, where there is supposed to be. So again, if you prospect look, anybody prospecting less than 15 hours consistently in a week is not doing their job. Simple. Any manager who's not recruiting for 8 hours or more a week is not doing their job. Any manager that's not coaching for 15+ hours a week is not doing their job. So I always get my managers, by the way, Jeff, can you imagine this, that they rewrite their business plan that I didn't even know we rewrote? And they rewrite their schedule, they rewrite their performance, they rewrite their role, and all of a sudden I ask the question, and then we sit down in meetings, and it's the same meetings as an agent. It's just fascinating to watch what we do when all the answers. Here's what's so funny. Wouldn't it be great to take a test and you already knew all the answers? That would have been great in college or high school where they said, here's all the answers to the test, now go take the test. You have all the answers. And all the answers are to simply prospect for 15 hours a week, and that is the automatic income of $250,000. Period. If you really do that 42 weeks a year. But many of you will then go, well, but, I gotta send this email. It's really important. And I've got to be at this closing, and the only time the clients could meet me was the closing had to be at 8:40 a.m. so that Jeff Staples missed his coaching call that as soon as I see him, want to strangle him. Like he missed a call that he's supposed to be on with 6 other agents. And because he said that he had to be in a closing, because he never even asked the client if they could meet at a different time. The day that you make prospecting your priority or recruiting your priority, if you're one of the managers here, you will change your life. But until you do, you won't. Because this is a simple business. And if you haven't figured out that you're in the people business, then you need to recognize you're not in the feng shui business. You're not in the staging business. You're not in the be everyone's best friend business. You're in the business of communication and talking to people. And once you figure that out, then everything else works. But again, you will take a step back, and I can promise. How many people in this room have prospected for 15 hours legitimately this week?
Yeah.
Awesome. You know what's scary? Like, how much money, Andrew, will you earn this year? About 100? So here's interesting. I sat with an agent. I can tell you, it was Evan Child, another one yesterday. I sat with Evan Childy, and he said, I want to double my business. I said, well, show me your numbers. Oh, well, it's pretty simple. It's like you always hear me. How do you run faster? How do you run faster, Jason?
Run faster.
Run faster. How do you actually earn double the amount of money, Andrew? Guess what you have to do? Talk to not even twice the work, just twice the prospecting. I would bet you that you are averaging, whatever the average is, you might be averaging 1 hour a day of prospecting. If you went to 2, you'd make 200 grand. But for some reason, it is like the law of opposites. We're supposed to prospect, but we don't. We're supposed to exercise, but we don't. We're supposed to eat well, but we don't. We're supposed to practice, but we don't. And all of us will go, I always love this. Here's the best statement. It'll be on every gravestone of every unproductive agent. I knew what I was supposed to do. I just needed to do it. That is the essence of all great. Does everybody know how to lose weight in here? Is anybody confused about that process? Do you know how to do it? Is it like a rocket science type of situation? And people are like, well, I'm big boned. Yeah. I've got thyroid issue, and I'm just telling you, you already know the answers. You know the answers. You know the answer, and yet you will avoid the reality of the answer. Sorry, I got a hand. Okay, so Jeff and then Chris.
So I like that you said that. That becomes the challenge, because you never hear anybody say, man, I made 30 contacts every day for 42 weeks and it didn't work.
No!
I worked out for, however many days a week for 4 months and it didn't work. The challenge is just actually doing it.
The thing that is funny, Jeff, is that I at the movie I had a lot of people come up to me and go, wow, what's happened? What have you, you're in really a lot better shape. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like this magic. Here's the only magic.
Consistency.
That is my answer. I just consistently actually just work out. And then consistently.
And it works.
I consistently have done some things with my diet. Just consistently. I have done nothing. Everyone knows me well enough. I've done really extreme things, or what we would consider extreme. I always say, well, you mean you've juiced for that long? Yes. That seems so extreme. No, what's extreme is eating processed food your whole life seems a little extreme to me.
Did you have popcorn at the theater?
Huh?
Did you have popcorn at the theater?
No, I had 3 pieces of sugar-free candy from Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory.
Nice.
Yeah, 3 pieces of sugar-free and then a bottle of water. That's the difference. I'm just consistent, and it is the only difference. But the problem is it's the same issues, whether it be prospecting, same issues, whether it be our diet, same issues of whether it's our exercise. It's always the same issue. There's no different answer. You guys know what to do. The question is, will there be a day that, here's the deal, will this, and I'll get to you, Chris, just one, will this be important enough that no matter how painful you may think that it is, and again, I always think, when I think, this is the conversations I have in my own head, I think, well, it's hard. And then I have conversations, I have these visions, Chris, of pilgrims, pioneers, hand carts, the Mayflower. And I say to myself, hard? You would get on a ship in London and half of you wouldn't be there. You would have been thrown overboard because you died. That would have been hard. Walking 2,000 miles to the middle of nowhere where we live right now, and half of them die by the time they get there, that seemed hard. And then I think, well, I don't know if I can prospect for 2 hours. And that is the conversations I have in my head, is I sit there and put perspective around, what do we really constitute as hard? It's all relative. Is it mentally hard? Arguably, maybe. Is it hard to do? Not really, not physically.
You're not going to lose a limb.
I'm not going to lose a limb, right? It's the thing I always say, what's the worst thing that they could do when you're knocking on doors? And people always say, well, they could say no. And then I say, no, they could shoot you. And once you recognize you're probably not going to get shot, maybe a no isn't so bad.
Awesome. So I wanted to refer to the questions. You have the how under it. The how is referring to figuring it out. When you have challenges that come your way, when you're actively doing something, a lot of times we hide behind the how as excuses, right? I can't get started, I can't do this because I haven't figured it out, when we know what it is that we should be doing
Yeah.
talk about working out. And then, and the other thing is on the how, the most successful people that I see, they've learned how to make everything work for them around them rather than focusing on circumstances and all these things that get in the way and all that stuff. And it's crazy. Everyone does it. I do it.
We all do it.
When we make a decision, we have to know that when you're looking to pick up the phone or knock on the door, whatever it is, it's not simply a decision of doing it or not doing it and rationalizing it away. You're telling yourself something in that moment. If you don't pick up that phone, you're telling yourself that that's hard, that that's too hard for you to do. And then if you do it, you're telling yourself that I do hard things. Even if that's difficult for you,
Great
every one
message.
of us are on like a different level of difficulty that we do hard things. But you have to know, like, as soon as you leave here, when you make that decision to prospect for the first time or do something difficult or quote unquote scary, when you don't do it, what are you telling yourself in that moment? You're literally cutting yourself off at the knees to be able to move forward.
Yeah, love it. It's great. Spot on. Any other thoughts, comments? Anybody? John?
Asking the right questions is very powerful. I think it's about 6 years ago I flew out my back at the gym. You probably remember.
I do remember that.
And that was the day we launched Century 21, right?
I think it was that day.
Yeah, it was.
Or that week or whatever.
So he said we have all the answers. I didn't know how I was gonna pay Dr. Haddock to treat my back and everything else. So I just started calling 30 people a day. It didn't matter. I had to do it. And before I knew it, all my listing signs were gone, all 4 of them.
Love it.
And, and nothing had sold. And so I'm all crap, what do I do? And I said, well, I gotta get more listings. Well, I have no more signs. So I came and asked if I could put 4 more signs on my ledger, and he said yes. And I said, well, I got no more lock boxes either. And I said, who can help? And Jay right here, another agent, loaned me some lock boxes. The next thing I knew, I had 8 listings. And it's just
It's a decision.
questions and decisions, that's all it is.
It is. Jennifer, we'll wrap up. Jennifer's new to the company, if you guys don't know,
Hey,
so
Jennifer.
welcome. I think today's your first day, isn't it?
Thank you.
Is today your first day?
I guess it is.
All right.
Well, being a mother of 5 kids, 3 boys and 2 girls, is so important, especially to tell the girls, you can't do this. You know, look, I'm a 42-year-old woman, I start again, and I'm not afraid. If I can do this, you can do this, you know? I think it starts with you in your house and kind of teach your kids, like you can't expect them to do good if you don't do good, you know? You can't just push and push. They really need to see you, what you believe on, and you can do this, so they can do it.
Yeah, love that. All right, I'll leave you with this, Andrew. You've heard the story, I bet, but it's just a good reminder. To that point, Jennifer, it's a good point. Gandhi was meeting thousands of people. Everybody wanted to shake his hand, right? The mother and her son came up to him. The mother had traveled and the son had traveled thousands of miles to come see Gandhi. And they shook his hand and she said, hey, Gandhi, will you tell my son to stop eating sugar? He looked him in the eye, or looked her in the eye and said, come back in 2 weeks and we'll talk. She took it as something pretty cool and she said, okay. So she went home. 2-3 weeks later, she comes back. They travel thousands of miles. They wait in line for hours. They come up to Gandhi and they say, do you remember us? You were going to tell my son to stop eating sugar. And then he just came down on him and said, stop eating sugar. Don't do that. It's bad for you, blah, 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 blah. And she looked at him and said, why couldn't you have said that 2 weeks ago? And he said, who knows what the answer is?
Because he was still eating sugar.
I was still eating sugar. So it's a great point. 2 weeks later, he stopped eating sugar so he could tell them, stop eating it. Okay? All right, here we go. Let's rock. Thanks for being here. Dusty, right? Dusty's first day?
First day.
All right. Anybody else their first day? Barbara, first week. All right, Barbara, first week. All right. We haven't scared you away yet, Barbara?
No.
All right.
Everyone's super nice.
They are? Even me? All right, good. There we go. I succeed because I got my goals. I'm an optimist. I like talking to new people. I know it's important to me. I remember people's names. I have a daily plan I follow. I'm passionate about real estate. I know consistency is my greatest tool. I like asking questions, listening. I enjoy reading to improve my sales skills. My thoughts and my emotions act as results. I focus on my dreams daily. My presentation is powerful and persuasive. I improve my skills daily. I'm happy. I love prospects because it feeds my business. I see my future is awesome. I love my life. I'm grateful and thankful. I control my thinking. I believe in me. I feel outstanding. I use my beliefs daily. I get things done. I provide excellent customer service. I drink water daily. I connect with people. People love me. I love others. I am disciplined and accountable. My daily schedule. I prospect daily. I set appointments daily. I'm a master persuader. I achieve my goals. I'm a real estate rock star. I'm passionate about my life. I live every day with purpose. I'm confident in my sales skills. I know my destiny. I'm healthy and strong. I am powerful. I am unstoppable. I keep on, exciting, fun, productive, fun, mind, health, life. Yes!